Hey, well, welcome, David Isaac. You're here at AI Infra. This is like, I believe, their second or third one now. It's pretty amazing to see really all the vendors out here. But happy to have you. So I'm Doug Shannon, and you're David Isaac. So give us like a little bit of understanding of what AI Path is and like what you guys do.
So AI Path is a self-serve SaaS, and what we're here to do is solve the problem of the clarity of knowing what in your product that you build next is going to create the business impact that you need. We're triangulating a lot of types of data to solve the data gaps of understanding our customers better, understanding the weak points in our competitors' armor, and understanding this Marvel multiverse of infinite product futures that we have, right? Because every idea is a good idea, but better has to be in the context of what your competitors are doing and what your customers need.
Right. I mean, how are you driving that? I think maybe like the term digital twins. Like, what does that look like within the AI Path?
So we're creating data that you probably don't already have.
Yep.
We are creating simulations between digital twins of your customers. Each customer segment gets their own digital twin because each customer segment has their own needs and gaps in their solutions that they have. And then we're simulating that in the context of the competitor because it's great if you're good for your customer,
Right.
but you need to understand, are you better than your competitor? Where are you better? Where are you weaker? And it's not about copying your competitor because they will have a subtly different customer strategy, customer focus, different advantages. So it's about understanding in the context of the competitor. The simulations give us data, essentially the world's most advanced customer journey mapping.
Right.
Essentially, also we're adding experimentation automation so that every marketing and sales touchpoint that you have is continuously augmenting your data set. So nothing in AI Path is static. It's continuously machine learning. So in addition to swarms of agents, in addition to using LLMs, we're using genuine machine learning to continuously augment and understand and iterate your product strategy, go-to-market strategy, and your sales strategy.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic, right? Because traditional AI, like academic AI, before Gen AI came out, it was
Yes.
drive information's coming out, but then it doesn't really get updated.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
throughput really wasn't there, and
Right.
that big team of like enterprise management and whatnot. So
Right.
having that automation side with the agents driving that kind of ecosystem,
self-learning.
yes,
Sure.
and self-healing, self-understanding.
AI is great when it has data,
Yes.
right? It's great at synthesizing, etc. What our hypothesis is that 90% of startups wouldn't fail if they had the data they needed. 72% of products launched wouldn't fail if they had the data they needed. So we're already creating pre-simulations that help you then gather more data that you don't know that you don't know. Because every time we collect new data, we create 3,000 new scenarios and rank them
Yep.
in ways that apply to the end-to-end work stream of a product marketing and sales team. So the whole company is now aligned to the overall digital twin, and everybody starts to build and grow in sync.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting way to really look at it because it's almost like you're managing and evaluating perspective, not just on the technology or the vertical they're playing in, or what are they selling, how are they doing it, what is the service. You're really driving what don't you know, and really bringing that forward.
And products are alive. Your product is alive. A lot of people think of sales and marketing as selling what we have. We're saying that the future of the revenue intelligence part of our product is about learning and anticipating how we're performing and using that to drive product management. So it becomes actual product strategy input. You can simply say, yes, we're creating more data, but we need data that's actionable.
Right.
And I used to be ASEAN innovation co-lead for ASEAN for EY Parthenon in Asia. And it's very slow, it's very expensive to do any kind of experimentation. It's very slow to do customer journey mapping. For one of our life sciences demos for a trial that we've started, we literally mapped 11 customer journeys, folded them in on themselves, and found not improvements to what they're doing now, but solving problems for their customers, the doctors, the clinics, solving problems for the retirement homes, the nurses, the families of the people who have a loved one in the retirement home. Outside your product and service, what else can you do that will improve, in their case, adherence of completing a drug regimen?
Yeah, I mean there's the whole life cycle there, right? But I guess one question around that, since you're building these digital twins and you're building these ways to really understand the synthetic data of what's going on, the things that people aren't seeing, the perspective around that, how is, with using synthetic data, how are you making sure to level that into the actual end user experience or the company's experience to make sure that you're not stating something outside of their understanding or their own like value system?
I get you. Look, we love AI, but we don't trust AI on its own, which is why we're pioneering advancements in compound AI, which is how we're gathering data from actual customers and bringing that into the model. But we're not applying it to revenue. I think we're really good, like Salesforce is an amazing system of record for everything to do with the CRM and the revenue. We're like Salesforce, but for product innovation and marketing and go-to-market innovation. So we're creating those closed loops, and that synthetic data is being applied to what was supposed to be my PhD. Because today, and I haven't published the PhD, we've actually withheld it. It's the 4 of the 16 frameworks that are proprietary in our product. And so we are engineering what data we want to create because we're designing it for the data that we need to use to guide your product strategy. So we're adding business impact ranking to everything in your backlog in Jira. We're adding business impact potential to everything that's in your go-to-market and sales. And then we're saying none of that is static. We don't see the future. What we do see are 3,000 of the next best scenarios. We'll help you rank those. We'll help you test those in a specific way on your existing touch points. And then what are the best next steps for your product marketing and sales? So we're building that synthetic data not to be trusted. We're building it to execute the experiments. We're helping you execute the experiments. We're building those assets. We're bringing that back into ways that help you on your end-to-end workflow of product marketing and sales. And all of those are now aligned to a digital twin. So nobody's out of sync. So every time you build a new feature, go-to-market and sales by design are instantly updated.
So you have that upstream, downstream kind of looked at and whatnot. You know, it's interesting you're talking about like the PhD and kind of what you're working on, but like I've heard
Proposed PhD,
Okay, I mean, hey, we all got to work on something.
We had to hold it back, yeah.
Well, I mean, if not, then I mean, it goes back to like the intellectual property kind of discussion. But how I heard like you guys are also, or you're working on a documentary, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the documentary?
We've been invited to be a part of a 5-part documentary. It's being filmed by Channel News Asia, which is a very large, a dominant brand in Asia for news. And they're creating a 5-part documentary called Innovations That Matter. And so they followed us to California for the 3 speaking engagements that we're doing here. And we're part of an episode called Entrepreneurs in Innovations That Matter. So it's very humbling. It's an amazing opportunity, but we really love this cross-pollination between what's happening in Asia and bringing the best of both across both sides of a big, big ocean.
I mean, we're seeing that commoditization globally, right? Everything's kind of coming into one. We do
build
have
a global
some
product,
right. We are seeing also some nuances on the global scheme of things, like where AI sovereignty is coming in and stuff like that. That's something that could be talked a whole other session of that, what that looks like. But in general, so the other aspect of this is really, I mean, AI Path plays a really interesting role in handling that use case question, right? Most companies are saying, where do we drive? How do we do this? What are the use cases? Where does that match up? And really, you know, taking that digital twin approach is giving them that little bit of like, hey, there's what you sell, there's what you buy, there's what you, so maybe like the buy, acquisition, partnership. How does AI Path handle that question?
We're actually doing a talk about the buy versus build question when you don't know what they want and you still have to build it. But that brings up the purpose and the vision and the mission of AI Path, which is to be that system of record for innovation, because today there is no tool for strategy. There are only communication tools like slide decks and white papers in various document formats. But there is no tool that ties together strategy and execution. In fact, we have a module in our tool called StratOps, which is strategy into operations. And without that closed loop, you actually don't know whether the strategy isn't working or the execution isn't working. Because people are left to too many levels of abstraction of turning a strategy into...
Or siloed, right?
So we postulate there are strategy gaps because data is incomplete and data isn't being designed to be a hypothesis that is testable with data that actually informs your best next step. So that's exactly what we're building. We're building that system of record, just like Salesforce has built a system of record, for example, but for things that are very focused on your growth and that customer centricity and solving the data gaps.
Cool. Yeah, I think that covers the majority. Any last tidbits or some of the biggest hurdles you've seen? Like, because I mean, running with these companies, talking to them, and taking them on that journey.
Yeah.
What's like the big like call out that you've seen?
I've worked with over 200 companies. I've mentored at nearly 40 accelerators.
Yeah.
And most people think that experimentation and journey mapping is too slow and too expensive, and it did used to be. We believe that the cost of that data gathering is now falling relatively to zero, and that it's so cheap, and we now have systems, you can be self-learning exponentially. Nothing about AI Path is about productivity and doing things faster or better or cheaper. We're actually beyond that and saying we can do now more complex scenario planning and risk analysis, and you don't have to learn multivariate analysis, you don't have to learn very complex statistical validation techniques, and we're going to do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. And why not test before you build? Why not align everybody in the organization to what the customer wants? You can't beg them to buy. So can we exceed their expectations by understanding the entire context? And in fact, my talk today is not even about the external context of the competitor and the customer.
Right.
Today we're talking about the internal context of the organization and why are there silos between product, marketing, and sales? Why does leadership have different ideas that are then translated into OKRs, which are abstractions, and then the OKRs are abstractions that become my
KPI level,
my backlog,
right.
right? Why are there so many good ideas that we can't build? There surely must be a way to prioritize them, so why don't we prioritize them?
Maybe it's understanding, maybe it's something else.
Right.
But I think that kind of finishes up where AI Path is leading people down the path of AI, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have a slogan, but I mean, I was like, that's a
We're
pretty good
AI
one.
for product market fit, and we want to be that system of record for innovating in innovation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, so David Isaac, I mean, fantastic talking to you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for being here at AI Infra, and we'll talk more.
It's a great conference already. We're looking forward to see everything else. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.